What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday to you, November the 19th. I saw Patrick's comment as soon as I was ready to hit the go live button, and that's why I am laughing. Sometimes when you're sad, sometimes it just helps to laugh. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. We got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to get into on this Wednesday. The main topic that we got to get into, the main thing that we got to discuss is your Texas Longhorns and where do we go from here. Going to have a good discussion. Might be a long discussion, might be a short discussion, but make sure you stay active in the chat. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Let's get into it. So let me just retweet this right quick, and then let's definitely get into it. We got to talk about the Longhorns and where they are at this moment. There you go. There's the retweet. And we all watch the playoff rankings, and we'll get into that in a second. And we all watch the playoff stuff, and we're trying to figure out now what. What does the season look like now with 2 games left for the Longhorns? What's on the table? What's not on the table? What can this team realistically achieve? What can they not achieve, right? And so there's going to be debates on either side as relates to that. But at the end of the day, we got to get into, and I'm going to tell you what I think. What I think has probably been really consistent going into the rankings from last night. And then subsequently, when the rankings were revealed, it kind of revealed what I thought was going to happen, which was that Texas was going to drop in the rankings and basically kind of be on the outside looking in as relates to the playoffs. And now you can do your playoffs. You can definitely have that conversation as relates to that. All right, so let's just do this, okay? Let's just talk about this top 25 that we saw last night, okay? And you guys know where Texas is. Let's focus a little bit on the teams that are ahead of them. No real surprises through 1 through 5, right? We all kind of expected that. Ohio State at the number 1, Indiana at 2, A&M at 3. What would that have looked like if they lost to South Carolina? I guess we'll never know. But A&M at that 3 spot, Georgia's at 4, and Texas Tech at the 5. And again, no real surprises for us there. And then, of course, you follow that by Ole Miss at the 6. I'm only reading this for those who are in the car and maybe didn't see it last night. I don't want you looking at, you may have plugged me into your USB or you got me on the Bluetooth. I just don't want you to get into no accidents looking. So I'm reading. So for those of you who are at work and you're like, well, dog, I can see it. I'm not reading it for you. I'm trying to prevent accidents here. That's what I do. I am an accident preventer. I almost said something slick. All right, so 6 is Ole Miss, 7 is Oregon. You had Oklahoma at 8, Notre Dame at the 9 spot, and Alabama at 10, right? And then what we really saw was the drop that had Texas dropping down all the way to number 17, which basically put Texas on the outside looking in. Now, the teams that ended up making it in, just according to the CFP rankings, Ohio State, Indiana, of course, A&M, Georgia, those were the top 4 teams, right? Tech, Ole Miss, Oregon, Oklahoma, Notre Dame. Basically, when you get down to those last 2 spots, Alabama would have been at the 10 spot, right? Once you go in. When you get down to those last 2, Miami gets in because you got to have, obviously, a rep from the ACC. And then, of course, you've got the group of 5 team that gets in, and that's Tulane, which leaves BYU out of the playoffs and would leave Utah out of the playoffs if it had begun today. But more importantly, for the purpose of our conversation, it's about the Longhorns and where they're at. And they're all the way down there at 17. just all by myself, right? It just way the hell down there, hanging on for dear life. What the committee basically let us know last night, we ain't really feeling you, Texas. We are not feeling you, and it was cool. Well, we ain't feeling you. Now, here's where it becomes tough, right? Because I know a lot of you are going to do the whole, well, can Texas go back in the playoff race? I've seen this on Orange Bloods. I've seen it on X. I've seen the conversations, right? Well, what if Texas goes out and they really beat Arkansas and just really just handle their business and just beat them down, and then all they got to do is that what if they just go and then beat Texas A&M? Maybe they beat them by a good margin, right? Like if we just have it's like, okay, if what do they say? No, I can't say it. If my uncle didn't have genitalia, he'd be my aunt. Certain things I gotta clean up. It's a 9:00 morning show, right? I gotta clean it up for you, some of y'all at work. So, but there's too many ifs in here. And the question I would ask for those is not to kill your hope. It's not to kill your hope, but we do have to live in the world of reality at some point, right? What have you seen from your Texas team this season, 10 games in, that makes you believe that Texas has a chance to blow out Arkansas on Saturday? What do you see? What have you seen that makes you believe, oh man, we're gonna handle our business. We got that. We're gonna beat them by 21 to 30. First of all, you can tell yourself Arkansas is one of the worst teams in the conference. You can tell yourself that, and that's fine. When has Texas just looked great against any of these bad teams, lesser teams in the conference? We know it didn't happen against Florida, and they're trash. We know it didn't happen against Kentucky. They ain't that good. We know it didn't happen against Mississippi State. They got one game left, and they may not make a bowl game. They got one game left. I saw it's versus Ole Miss. That's it. So we haven't seen Texas handle their business against, hell, outside of Sam Houston State. We didn't see Texas blow out San Jose or UTEP. So now look, maybe you can always throw a maybe out there. You don't ever want to live in a world of definites, right? There's always a possibility. But what have you seen that really makes you think that? And especially look at Arkansas's record. Because if you look at Arkansas's record, objectively, like Arkansas has actually been pretty competitive in their games. Outside of one game, overall, Arkansas has been a competitive team, right? So the odds are that's a close game. But I will say this, and this is the crappy part. Even if Texas can go out and let's handle their business against Arkansas, a win against Arkansas is not going to really move the needle as relates to the committee. The committee ain't going to look at that and say, oh, man, well, Texas beat Arkansas by 21. Let's move them up to 12, right? That's not going to happen because Arkansas is considered to be a bad team. So they're going to shoulder shrug anything Texas does this weekend. It won't matter. And now you can tell yourself, all right, we got A&M in how many days is it? 10 days from now? Is that my math correct for that Friday? Wait, man, A&M. And all you got to do is just go out and handle your business against an A&M team, right? But let me ask you this. That's going to be another top 5 team that Steve Sarkisian would face. What have you seen from Steve Sarkisian against top 5 teams since he's been there? You've seen one victory, and that's it. And outside of that, we just saw what happened against Texas versus the top 5 team. So it will require Texas doing something in the final 2 games of the season that we haven't seen them do all year long. And here's the thing I always say. And I usually say this by mid-season, but it would apply to where we are now. And that is, for the most part, by this time in the year, you are who you are. there ain't no cavalry coming. You are who you are as a team. You're a penalized team, highly penalized team. I know Sark don't want to hear me ask him about that, but you're a highly penalized, undisciplined team. And we can tell ourselves all these different things, but at the end of the day, Texas is who they are at this moment. They are a 9-3 team at best. 8-4 team is probably the unfortunate reality. And I know we're going to tell ourselves, look, I know how we do this. I know how this works. Well, y'all remember last week? Y'all remember last week when do you remember I had Anthony Dasher on my show last week? It was Flash Friday. I hadn't recorded it. But if y'all watched my show last Friday, I had Dash on the floor. He works for UGA Sports. Really good guy. I like talking to him. And he started telling me, like, Georgia doesn't have a pass rush. And I'm like, man, look, we say that. We said that about every team that faces Texas. They don't got a pass rush. And then guess what? Everybody all of a sudden just comes alive. And they look like the damn steel curtain against this damn offensive line. Mostly the interior. Okay. So at the end of the day, you're just like, man, okay. So we can tell ourselves, Arkansas is this and Arkansas is that. And Arkansas ain't this and Arkansas ain't that. Man, we know what happens. We said the same thing about Kentucky, man. Kentucky can't even sack the quarterback. We know Kentucky had like damn near 6 sacks in that game. So don't even talk yourself out of that. And then you talk to yourself into, well, A&M hasn't played anybody. I mean, so A&M really ain't all that. But it's kind of like, what do you think A&M's saying about Texas? Same thing, right? You say, oh, man, they fell behind against South Carolina. Or you can say, yeah, they came back, one of the biggest comebacks in SEC history against South Carolina, right? So you can tell yourself, this team ain't all that. Yeah, that's my English. Ain't all that. I'm from the South. Ain't all that. Or you can tell yourself, you know what? Our team ain't really all that at this moment, right? But I will tell you that the reality is we start thinking about the playoffs and all those kind of things, right? And Patrick, I see a super chat. Give me 1 second. I got you, though. I got you. I already pinned it. You're good to go, Patrick. Give me 2 minutes to finish my thought, and I got you. The reality is Texas is probably not going to go to the playoffs. I'll explain it why. Let me get Patrick's super chat in here, and then I'll explain to you why Texas is probably not going to go. Patrick, my man Pete, Master P. I like to call you that. Make him say, would it be better to go 8-4 or 7-5 to realistically see the changes made that need to be made in the all-season portal? Man, I think, listen, 8-4, let me tell you like this. 8-4 is better than 7-5. You know why 8-4 is better than 7-5? Because 8-4 still gives you the changes that you want. 8-4 is going to get you the changes that you want. If Texas finishes 9-3, and then they go and win a bowl game, you know what? That's 10 wins. Sark ain't going to change nothing. Sark's pride won't let him change nothing. Sark's going to stand pat. He's going to go 10 toes down. We won 10 games. We 3 straight 10-win seasons. This hasn't been done since such and such and such and such, right? He's already quoting numbers, right? He was quoting numbers in the last press conference, right? So, haven't had a team beat top, 3 top 10 teams since LSU or something like that, 2019, something like that, right? I think the 7-5 thing, Patrick, is dangerous because I think 7-5 now we start moving into that a little bit of a hot seat territory for Sark in the offseason. And I don't really necessarily think that's where we want to be. it's kind of like you being in a relationship. Some of y'all currently or previously, and that's for the single folk, right? And you don't necessarily want to break up with that person. You just want them to make changes, right? You just want them to make changes that are going to make the relationship better. And so I don't feel like we're at the breakup point as far as Sark is concerned. Like I don't feel that way. I feel like he needs to make changes for this relationship to be better. So I think 7-5 puts us in that breakup conversation. I'm not ready for that. 8-4, I think, accomplishes exactly what you would like, right? That being said, thank you, Patrick. That being said, I don't think Texas is going to make the playoffs. I don't think even if they beat A&M, they're going to make the playoffs. I think that conversation is done. I think that ship has sailed. I think there's precedence for this as well. I think if you look at the 2024 Alabama team that finished 9-3, you can look at the parallels between both of those teams, right? They lose against Vanderbilt, which, as we know, was a huge upset, right? Vanderbilt, biggest win in Vanderbilt school history. You knock off the number one team. That was a bad loss for Alabama last year, right? Bad loss, okay? Texas loses against Florida. Bad loss. Then you have another loss. They lose against Tennessee, okay? Texas loses against Ohio State. Not really the same. Kind of that's an apples and oranges thing. But Tennessee was ranked and considered to be a good team at that time, right? And then towards the end of the year, they lost to Oklahoma 24-3, a 21-point loss. What does Texas have? That 25-point loss against Georgia, right? In a conference game. That loss against Oklahoma sealed the deal. The same way the loss against Georgia probably seals the deal. Now, the biggest difference in the conversation, if you guys want to nitpick it, would be after that loss against Oklahoma, the next opponent that Alabama had was Auburn. They were never going to gain any ground with a win against Auburn. Texas would have A&M, which is, ranked 3. So you can tell yourself, okay, but now you got to go back into when you go into these rankings, right? When we go and put that back up, you would have to say, okay, how many teams would Texas have to leapfrog? And could they leapfrog enough to essentially, you would have to tell yourself the win against Bama, the win against A&M could somehow, because you basically need to be in the top 10 for the most part. You probably need to be in the top 10. Can a win, this is what you have to ask yourself. Can these next 2 wins be enough to put Texas at the 10 spot to get in? Knowing that you're going to have a group of 5 team that's in, and you probably, and then the ACC champion is going to need to be in at somewhere, right? So because you got to have those champions in and represented, that means that Texas got to be in the top 10. Who do you see them jumping into to get that many spots ahead? That's where we're at right now. And I know, this is where doing this show. Good morning to everybody who's there in the chat. I see y'all. This is where we just got to keep it real, y'all. This is where we got to keep it real. This is where, listen, this is not negativity. This is not poo-pooing anything, but this is just us being real and having a real ass conversation as real as adults, and to me, as you guys are fans, and me as an observer. Like, it's hard. And Tay, is it Tej? I don't even know if you jump Notre Dame, because Notre Dame's not going to lose anything. The committee is letting you guys know. That's what we think about you. Just not impressed. And will one game do it? Probably not. This is the thing that I have been warning everybody when I've done the shows with Catch or I've talked to the modcast, anything like that. I keep going back to, you got to remember with this committee, you got to remember, you got to factor it in. Even though they try to act like it doesn't matter, you got to remember this at all times. The eye test matters to these people. It matters. They try to tell you it doesn't matter, and then guess what? They make decisions based off of how it looks. They don't just look at wins and losses. They don't do that. They want to know how you win, how you lose. There's another metric that makes it harder to judge. You know, this again, I've used this as an example. This is a committee that a few years ago they kept out Florida State, right? And it's in the Florida State was undefeated. But what did they say? Well, Florida State, you lost your quarterback. It doesn't look as good. Alabama be a better fit for you. This is the same committee that said, I think it was Virginia or something like that. Like they talked about, how injuries would play a part. I don't know if it was Virginia. I forget the specific team. And then they talked about, remember I told y'all that the committee a couple of weeks ago said that it was the selection process was, I think it was a combination of art and science. And I was like, science is math. Art is subjective, right? Art is you can look at it and say, oh my God, that painting looks amazing. It looks like a Dali painting, right? You can just tell yourself like that belongs in a museum, right? Or you can tell yourself that looks like something that they did in kindergarten to the eye of the beholder. But they factor in eye tests. And what doesn't help in this conversation, and this is in H-Dog, this is where I'm going. So you guys, we're all in unison. We're linked up because this becomes the conversation. It wasn't Money B. No, I wasn't trying to put Money B out there. Just the things moved so fast. Stop scheduling hard non-conference games. That's the conversation we're having right now, right? H-Dog, and I appreciate that. So that's where Texas has to decide in the future, what does this look like? I have what is this? The nurse over at my kid's school. My gosh, it's like I swear they call like twice a week. Like, what the hell is my kid doing in school? My 7-year-old. What the hell is he done now? I say I got a missed call from the school nurse. I have to call back after I'm done. Anyway, so the thing I have maintained, and this is what it is. And Chris D'O'Connie and I have gone back and forth about this. He joked about this in the spring meetings in Destin back in May of this year. In front of a group of reporters, and he's like, Ardmore, you always hurt. This is my D'O'Connie, right? It may not be the best, but he can make fun of me. He'd be like, Ardmore, you can ask me questions, right? Ardmore, he's always busting my balls about scheduling these non-conference games. He's always giving me a tough time over there, right? But blah 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 blah. Well, Chris and I get along, so I can do that. When Texas decided to schedule these tough non-conference opponents, they did it under the guise, the motivation of it was this. It was, we played the Big 12, and it's hard to get people to come to these games. And y'all are fans. Y'all remember it? How many of these Kansas games did you want to go to? How many times did you want to see Kansas State here? How many times were you saying, man, I can't wait to see West Virginia come into DKR, right? Go through the list. You may have been cool about a Texas Tech. Baylor, maybe you had some sort of connection to it, right? The majority of these programs, the fan base was not excited about. You guys weren't excited about them coming here, and you definitely wasn't excited about going to Morgantown. That didn't do nothing for you. It didn't move the needle. So what was done was said, okay, in an effort to put butts in the seats and then give the fans something that you needed to travel to that you would enjoy, they started saying, let's schedule these tougher teams. So that's why you saw Notre Dame was on the schedule, right? Michigan got put on the schedule. Ohio State got put on the schedule. Florida got put on the schedule several years ago. Nah, DH. No, it's not about positivity or negativity. It's about reality. Because if you wait, the issue is when you just waving pom poms, DH, then all of a sudden people don't I can't get here, DH. This, and by the way, everything I'm saying to you, right, DH is in love. It's not coming at you. This is just not how I talk. I can't get here and say, all right, guys, let's rally, because no, man, we gotta deal with reality for a second. You hoping for the best, but we got to be prepared for every scenario. Okay, now that being said, so everything was about putting butts in the seats. That's what it was. And Florida was put on the schedule as well. You know, that was before Florida went in there. Georgia was put on the schedule. That was before Texas became an SEC program. But then when Texas becomes an SEC program, your motivation for having those games is changed, because you got butts in the seats. Look at all you guys who traveled. Tex Blonde traveled to games this year, right? Some of you others have traveled to games this year, right? Who've got on there and said, we're going to go to Ohio State, or we're going to go to Georgia, right? You traveled, right? And so now it's not about getting butts in the seat or giving the fans something to watch. You got what you want to watch. You've got good games at DKR on the road, like going to SEC program. This is great. Now it's about making a schedule that that basically is going to be about making the playoffs. That's what this thing has got to be about. Can I tell you why? Let's bleed into this for a second. It's Sandman. I saw you in Columbus, right? I did see Sandman. First and foremost, why is this in -25 font? Goodness gracious. Golly, I can't see this crap. Okay. I gotta talk to my producer. We gotta, bro, this is like the bottom line of a damn eye chart. Tyler, what the hell? All right. Anyway, look at what other teams in this conference are doing a week before their rivalry games. Look at their schedules. Texas A&M is playing Samford. Okay, Missouri's at Oklahoma. Georgia is hosting Charlotte. Alabama is hosting Eastern Illinois. Mercer is at Auburn. Kentucky's at Vanderbilt. Arkansas is at Texas. Coastal Carolina is at South Carolina. Tennessee is at Florida. Western Kentucky is at LSU. Look at what other people are doing before their rivalry games. Samford, Charlotte, Eastern Illinois, Mercer, Coastal Carolina, Western Kentucky. What the hell? What the helly? What the hell? Texas has got to start. First of all, Del Conte has got to start beating the table with the folks at the SEC, Greg Sankey, and saying, come on, man. You got to do me better. And then Del Conte's got to start thinking to himself, is it worth the risk? Is it worth it? Getting out of the SEC is hard enough. And now the SEC is moving to 9 conference games in 2026. 9 conference games in 2026. And then if they go to 9 conference games in 2026, now you're going to add in a 10th, which is going to be Ohio State, Michigan. What the hell for? You got to start thinking about that. Okay. Now, here's the other thing you got to think about. Because I saw Ketch and Danny Davis debating about this online this morning. And I thought it was crazy. But the other thing that you got to think about as it relates to the non-conference games. Well, there is another universe where you just say just win those games and it doesn't matter, right? They're because they were debating like 2023 Texas, right? And and the whole thing. And now the thing about 2023 Texas is that their debate was, well, scheduling a tough non-conference team helped them. It did, but what also helped is that they beat Alabama on the road. That helped, right? And I'm always fascinated when y'all are having conversations with y'allselves over there. I'm like, are y'all just listening to? Are y'all even listening to me? Or y'all just talking to each other? Is this y'all's group chat? Like, hey man, be on the show like at 9 o'clock so we can talk. Like, I don't want to ask you for your number because that's kind of rude, but let's just, But anyway, I'm just joking with y'all. Yeah, I love you. I love the chat. I love it. The thing is, you got to win those games though. If you go to schedule them, you got to win them. That's the bottom line. I don't think. Here's what I would say. I don't think the loss to Ohio State hurt Texas as far as the playoffs are concerned. I don't believe that. I believe the loss to Florida is the one that really hurt Texas. And I think the blowout loss to Georgia is the thing that hurt Texas. I see you saying, man. I think those are the main things. I don't think it's as simple because I think there's layers, right? So H-Dog, right? It's kind of like the older I've gotten and I've learned how to navigate relationships a little bit better, way better than in my 20s, 30s, early 40s. 3 years ago. No, I'm just joking. What I've learned is the men are always evolving. Is that they you don't want to live in a world of absolutes, right? You want to live in a world where two things can be true, right? And so you want to. It's easy. I can say you don't want to schedule the non-conference games, a tough ones, sure, but I would also say that winning them it also helps out, right? Because if Texas beats Florida, I think the conversation that we're having is different. Quite honest with you. If Texas beats Florida, now you're talking about a bad loss versus Georgia and the loss versus Ohio State. And you're talking about a team that's 8-2 at that point. So now I think Texas may be outside of the top 10, but maybe they're at that 13 spot, right? They're just on the outside looking in. But you have those two things. So sometimes it's about handling your business as well. And so Texas has got to handle their business. Texas has got to, going forward, has to handle their business against the Floridas of the world. They can't go to overtime versus Kentucky. They can't go to overtime versus Mississippi State. All these trash teams that you play, you've got to have that. You got to have those good victories. And it doesn't have to be 30 points, but separate yourself. But if you are in the middle of the pack with them, it's hard to differentiate. Well, how much better is Texas than all these teams that they're either losing to or in life or death with? And then now all of a sudden the Vanderbilt game doesn't matter as much. The Oklahoma win seems like it was a long time ago. And the thing is, you got to be peaking. This is where it counts. I got your Longhorn football edits. This is where it counts. You got to be peaking in November. What you can't do when the committee, all eyes, when they really are paying attention, when we get past AP poll, when we get past the coaches poll, and we're in the only poll that matters, the CFP rankings, you gotta put your best foot forward, and you gotta put the wins up now. Because if you don't do that, even if you beat a Texas A&M falls. But then you got to also remember, like, conference champions are going to get in, and you're still in a group of teams that you got to leapfrog, and that's just not the easiest task to make or easiest thing to do. Longhorn Football Edits is out here, very, very active on X. I tell you, I see y'all stuff all the time. I don't interact with all of it. Because when I say something, then all of a sudden, there's no ego here. It's just when I say something to pop in, now all of a sudden, like, now people come at me. So I just like to watch. Doing a great job. That's according to me. Shit, that's it. Hell, appreciate you. No, man, we just got to have, it's like, we just got to have, like, real conversations on a day like today. Now, look, we'll reload. Tomorrow we'll do prize picks, and then Friday we'll get into the keys to the game. And look, well, there's Texas. What needs to happen? Let's not talk about playoffs, okay? Let's not talk about playoffs. Just win the next two. Just win the next two. Get to 9. If you get to 9, even if you don't make the playoffs, okay. Well, we go to Orlando to the Cheez-It Bowl. Let's go. We go to Tampa, go to the Outback Bowl. I haven't been to Outback in years. And back in the day, by the way, Outback, man, let me tell you, when I was coming up, if I had enough money to take a date, take her to Olive Garden, what? I felt like we was doing something. I'm like, hey, baby, get them breadsticks. It's unlimited. See that salad? That thing is in that cold bowl. But come on, baby, you can have a little bit more of that, right? Then I moved up to Carrabba's, and I was like, we were moving on up, right? And then, but the special one was like Outback. Oh, baby, yeah, I take you to Outback. I'm fixing to give you a ring. Like, that's back then, right? Now I haven't been to Outback in years. I went, I think a few years ago, and I was like, man, this steak is actually pretty good. So we may go to Tampa and go to Outback Bowl, right? It may be that. But at least if we get to 10, then we can tell ourselves, okay, some bad moments, things didn't go the way we wanted it to, but 10-3 you could be okay with that, right? 8-4, boy. 7-5. I don't even want to do the show. I'm gonna come on here on 7-5. I'm gonna come on here. I'm gonna be doing finger puppets and stuff. I'm gonna be doing like little magic tricks I can do with my kids. I'm like, I make my thumb disappear. Like, that's what I'm gonna do in order to do an audience if we have 7-5, right? So we don't want that at all. We don't want that smoke. All right, I went over my time. I don't know what it is. I haven't really been going over my time lately. And I just had a lot on my chest, and I just wanted to get a lot of these things out. So I went over a lot the other day, yesterday, and then I'm over today. But it's all good. So we know where we are. We know where Texas stands, and we know what needs to be accomplished. Beat Arkansas, beat A&M. Even if you don't make the playoffs, finish this thing on a high note. That's the message to you, Sark. Finish this thing on a high note. Would it mean you met expectations? No. You would not have met expectations. Expectations are to compete for championships year in and year out. So no matter what, no matter how Sark, according to who, according to you, according to the fans, those are the things that matter. What you say, what the fans think, right? It doesn't matter what the media thinks. But at least finish strong. Stumble, don't win, all that kind of stuff. It's a different conversation that right now I'm not prepared to have. All right, y'all. What I am prepared to say is go out there, have a fantastic day, enjoy your Wednesday. I am prepared to say live each day like it's your last because one day it will be. So I am prepared to say, hey, listen, do something nice for yourself, something special for yourself. Um, and, I also know, just get yourself in a good headspace. Just real quick, I know next week's going to be a tough week for some of y'all. Because it's the holiday. Thanksgiving is going to be one of your first holidays without a loved one, right? So I want you to start getting yourself in a good mental space to get ready for next week so you can handle that. To make sure you try to surround yourself with love. And start just thinking in advance for next week, because I know the holidays are happy for some people. It's tough for others, right? So just start thinking about how you're going to for your mental health, how you'll be able to handle next week. Okay. Outside of that, y'all, it's all good, man. Y'all be good. Hang in there. We're going to get through it. Woosah. And at worst, man, we'll just hang in December. We'll just go up to TCH Card House every Friday. We'll watch other teams play. We'll Uber up there. We'll drink. We'll have a good time. And we'll enjoy ourselves. All right.